So this is the commentary on Book 1, Sutra 8 of the Yoga Sutras of Pantanjali, and I've titled this Sutra Illusion. This is a comparative study course by myself, Dr. Lisa Love, involving 3 books. The Light on the Yoga Sutras of Pantanjali by B.K.S. Iyengar, the one by Swami Satchidananda, and the commentary by Alice Bailey called The Light of the Soul. Setting this aside, let's look at a simple interpretation of this sutra. So here we are reminded once again that yoga in its true form is about discovering who you are and training the mind so that it perceives correctly. That way the mind will be able to give you correct knowledge. But when the mind is not trained correctly, it does not perceive correctly. So misperception, illusion, and erroneous knowledge result. Naturally, this leads to multiple mistaken conclusions regarding the nature of reality, the universe, your identity as a spiritual being, and much more. And to overcome this, one needs to be able to still the mind. And as we will see, one needs a discerning mind, detachment, discipline, the ability to question assumptions, keeping a sense of poise, being able to see holistically, and knowing how to wed the mind with the heart in the right way are also very essential. Quite a list right there. Easy to say, harder to cultivate all the things that I have just spoken of. But this is yoga in its true sense. So let's get into what our 3 authors have to say. And remember, I encourage you to get these books and read their commentaries, because sometimes I am shortening them a lot. And it really is best to see what they have to say and come up with your own summaries. This said, Swami Satchidananda says that misconception occurs when knowledge of something is not based on its true form. And here are some of his key thoughts. Swami Satchidananda gives an example of believing a coiled rope is a snake to illustrate how the mind can misperceive something as not being in its true form. He says, quote, "In the twilight you see a coiled rope and mistake it for a snake. You get frightened. There is no snake in reality. There is a false understanding, but still it created terror in your mind. It is not valid knowledge that creates thought waves, but erroneous impressions also." So we're coming to an understanding that illusion or erroneous knowledge is a way that we are not able to perceive correctly. So we perceive a rope as a snake. And it's important to be able to perceive correctly, to have correct knowledge. But we don't have this whenever we have illusory or erroneous knowledge, which is based on non-fact or the non-real, according to B.K.S. Iyengar. And regarding his key thoughts, Iyengar's interpretation of this sutra is actually very short. A lot of his are very extensive, so it's kind of surprising that this one is very short. He says, quote, "Perverse, illusory, or wrong knowledge is caused by error or misconception or by mistaking one thing for another. It is based on a distortion of reality. Wrong understanding and false conceptions generate wrong feelings and taint the consciousness. This hinders the sadhaka in his efforts to experience the seer and may create a dual or split personality." So this illusion can be in the way that we are not seeing things accurately in the exterior world of the five senses, but it can also be that we are not perceiving things accurately in the realms that you might call the non-real. And we have to move through those non-real realms to get to the reality. And we only do this when we remain the seer. Otherwise, we have these distortions. So here are some more key thoughts by Alice Bailey. She says that only when we stand within Buddhic awareness or Christ consciousness can we know what is in any man. Now, when she was writing in the 1910s, 20s, 30s, 40s, they did not use the female pronouns, so everything said man, but it could be we know what is in any man or woman or actually anything. But what she's essentially saying, and we'll look at our model again that we've used throughout this series, only when you're within the Buddhic plane, Buddha, Buddhic plane, the plane of Christ consciousness, can you truly know. Only then can we rightly perceive how the inner essence is playing out through any form, any outer appearance, and more clearly ascertain through the modifications of the mind what the divine intention is revealing and playing out through any form. So until we're anchored in that Buddhic plane, there is always distortion. We're either in the abstract mind or the concrete mind or our emotions, or we're having physical debilitations that even prevent our brain from being able to be utilized correctly. We have to get to this higher level of Buddhic plane consciousness before we can truly understand what's happening out there, the world out there that we look at through our five senses. Only then does the mind stay open to the light in the realm of ideas instead of becoming closed, fixed, prejudiced, with no room for any other insight. So whenever we have dogmatism or fundamentalism or scientism or any kind of ism, whenever we have a closed mind, whenever we have prejudice, it is because we are not residing within the Buddhic plane. We're not residing within Christ consciousness that helps us see the inner essence, the inner light within. So here is our basic model again, and if you've been following along, you're very familiar with this now. And essentially we have the 3 planes of the ego, also known as the ahamkara, which are the mental, emotional, and physical planes. These are also known as prakriti. And then we have the levels of the self, the peaceful self, the spiritual levels, also known as purusha. And the levels of the ego ahamkara, prakriti, consist of the physical, emotional, and mental levels. And the mental level in the Bailey model is divided into abstract mind and lower concrete mind. Then we have in the spiritual levels the Buddhic and the Atmic planes, and we're only dealing thus far with the Buddhic planes. We're not really going into the Atmic planes. And essentially, these are the planes of inner awareness, and these are the planes of outer appearance. And so when we are trying to get correct knowledge, when we have that, we're aware of who we are as self, the peaceful self. We are residing at least upon the Buddhic plane, and we are looking out into the world of outer appearance through the mind, through the emotions, through the physical body, and they become increasingly clean vessels where they can accurately reflect the higher levels of the spiritual self, the peaceful self, and when they are not clean, the mental, emotional, and physical, we have the problems with the mind modifications, which we're talking about, of which there are 5, if you remember, and we're going into them in detail. Correct knowledge is not problematic, but illusion relates primarily to the mental plane. Fancy relates primarily to the emotional, mental plane combined. It's kama, manasic, emotional mind. And then we also have sleep and memory, which we will continue to be studying. But right now we're focusing primarily on illusion. So now let's look at some types of illusion. And this section does not come from the Yoga Sutras of Pantanjali or the commentary. It comes from another book by Alice Bailey called Glamour, a World Problem, where she's talking about illusion as it relates to the mind, glamour, which the Yoga Sutras call fancy, as it relates to the emotions, and the overall maya of the physical world. So Alice Bailey has listed 7 types of illusion, and I'm going to do my best to try and discern what it is that she means here. Let's start with the first one. One type of illusion is through wrong perception of an idea. Here she means primarily the inability to understand the value of an idea and whether it should be utilized or discarded. You're not perceiving that idea in terms of its fullness or its real value or its application somehow. And so you don't really know what to do with it. So I'm throwing out an example. You could say that I'm involved in marketing and I'm trying to understand if it is better to market online through YouTube videos or in a local newspaper. As I quiet the mind and I access my intuition, I can better discern or perceive accurately which medium works best for my market and my budget. Now that's a fairly simplistic example, but I'm trying to perceive the right use of the idea that I'm having in terms of how to market. Let's look at another one. Through wrong interpretation of ideas. This involves seeing something or grasping a mental concept in a distorted or partial way. So, for example, I think YouTube videos are the way to go because I hear everyone is doing them. And I think I will make money instantly doing this. Maybe I've been sent a number of emails or bought into some free marketing booklets and gotten on a mailing list, and they're all telling me how they made all this money off of YouTube videos. It's true, I may make money. There's a partial truth to this, but it may not be instant, and may in fact require a lot of effort on my part in order for me to succeed financially along these lines. So I am grasping the idea money can be made on YouTube videos, but I'm not interpreting it fully or correctly. So moving on to more types of illusion. Type 5 is through wrong integration of an idea. This is the tendency to grab onto ideas that have no real use for the person, though they might be useful to another. This is usually a problem for people who want to do too much and become jack of all trades, master of none. This is a problem in terms of marketing, in that if we say that we serve everybody, that doesn't tell anybody who our target market is. But if we are very specific, let's say we are looking for people who are in their 40s, who've had a breakup, who are trying to recover from a divorce that they've had recently in the past year, it's much more easier to find somebody who is within that target market. Here's an example I've given. I have no experience in doing YouTube marketing, but I do it anyway, hoping to save money. It's a good idea, do YouTube marketing, but I'm not integrating it correctly because I may spend a great deal of time and even more money training myself in something I would have been better off delegating out. Now, of course, that depends if I have the resources, etc., to hire somebody else to do it. But knowing, again, how to delegate, knowing what it is that you can do, what others need to do, how an idea fits, who it fits with, these are all important things. There's also through wrong embodiment of ideas, and this is similar to something being a half-truth. You know, we're told to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, not half-truths and omit things. So here's an example. I'm excited about how YouTube marketing will work. I think it will bring me all the success I need, and forget about other marketing avenues. Yes, it brings some success. That's a half-truth. It brings some success, but I would be better off with a more complete marketing plan that I now fail to do because I've put all my eggs in one basket. And finally, through wrong application of ideas. This is the tendency to misapply ideas. Example, I start my YouTube marketing campaign, but I don't really understand how best to set my YouTube videos up. I don't know how to apply it. I am good at driving traffic to my YouTube channel, but when people get there, they find my videos uninformative and boring. So I've got some good ideas, but I'm not applying them correctly. So these are just a few examples of how Alice Bailey talks about illusion in her book Glamour World Problem. Illusion is also related to erroneous or incorrect knowledge. And as you can see, to break through illusion, we need to cultivate more the intuition on the Buddhic plane, which only happens when we have a clear, logical, and reasonable mind. Now we're going to practice penetrating illusion. And with all of these sutras, I'm developing a meditation video that you can follow. This one is called Penetrating Illusion. Please find that separate video and follow it as often as you need to. And you're encouraged to practice it on a daily basis for 1 week during your study of this sutra. If you are working directly with me in the study of the Yoga Sutras of Pantanjali, or you're in a course with other people and myself, or you want to get into a course, here are some recommendations as to how to work through the sutras. And these recommendations are followed by information about me and also how to contact me.